After months of waiting, the Turn Racing DDU is finally out. Now I was able to get a hold of one, and I think for its value, it's a really great DDU. So now you're probably thinking to yourself, well, why should I consider the Turn Racing DDU? Well, there's a couple of things I look at when it comes to any piece of equipment that's out there. The first thing I'm going to take a look at is build quality, its looks, then we're going to get into its performance and the value for the product itself, considering what it does. So let's take a look at it. When you get the DDU, it comes in a nice box with some nicely printed stickers, and if you pre-ordered it beforehand, you also got a magnetic button plate for your Turn Racing wheel with a sticker for it, and also a bag of gummies that I already ate. Sorry, Sean. Opening that box, everything's really nicely packaged in a plastic shell that contains the DDU, a USB-C cable, and 2 mounts. Along with inside the box is printed the quick installation guide on how to install the DDU, the dashes, and anything else. Looking at the DDU, it's great out of the box. So the casing itself is made out of a nylon carbon fiber injection molding, giving it a really nice matte look. On the front of it, it has a 5-inch 800 by 4080 LCD panel with a 60 Hz refresh rate. On the top, you're going to see 20 LED lights with 14 on the top and 3 on each side. On the back, you're going to see the USB-C port, along with threaded inserts along with an on and off switch. The cable that comes with it is 2 meters long. Then also with it is the supplied mounting options. They're also made out of a nylon carbon fiber mold injection, where one side mounts to the back of your DDU and the other side mounts to your wheel mount or any other mount that you have for your rig. And what I like about these is that they're adjustable in height and you can also adjust the width of them. Installation is really easy. So you're going to use the supplied bolts to connect the mounts to the DDU, and then you can use the existing bolts of your rig mount or whatever you're using for your DDU to get it put on. And then you just plug the cable in the back of the DDU and PC. You do need to use SimHub for this DDU, and from Turn Racing website, you can download the lovely dashboard profile for it, also along with the Daniel Newman LED profiles. So I've got my DDU installed onto my rig. I'm using the SimCore mount, and how I have it coming down is coming back from the back of my triple monitors, wrapping around a little bit with like a custom setup, and it's going right underneath my monitor. It's not attached to my wheelbase. I didn't want it attached to my wheelbase because I have motion. I wanted to kind of sit there static for now. Again, as my rig evolves, that's probably going to change. But with the supplied mounts that Turn Racing gives you, you can sit there and adjust the width, the height, and everything like that. So I was able to get it to fit just right on my SimCore mount, because with SimCore it's a little bit wider than the mount size that Turn Racing has. But with those adjustable mounts, I was able to get it adjusted perfectly to fit onto the SimCore mount. Now, I do like, for me, I do like this kind of effect that I have, where I have my wheel, I have the DDU, and then right behind it is my dash. There is a noticeable gap between my monitors and my dash, and that's more because of the USB cable that supplies just a normal USB cable. It's not an elbow jointed USB cable, so I wish they would supply more of an elbow joint, because if you're using a normal USB cable, you're going to have to make sure you account for the distance that's between, the DDU and the monitor itself. But that's something easy. I can just go out and get another USB cable and, change that and have that put instead of the normal USB cable. Because right now how I have it's kind of bent a little bit, and over time that might affect some things with the, with the DDU. But anyways, enough on that. So with Turn Racing's DDU, you can also get a custom Turn Racing dash that's made by Lovely Dashboards, and also Daniel Newman LED profile. You can get those from their website. I'm going to have a link in the in the description down below. So because it's running SimHub, you don't have to run the Turn Racing dash. You can use any other dash that you have or that you're already using, and you can just change it on the fly if you have it mapped, or you can go into SimHub and change it yourself. So here I am kind of rotating between the dashes. And with the Daniel Newman LED profiles, these are built, for the Turn Racing DDU. You can either download them from Turn Racing's website, or you can go to Daniel Newman's and see that, hey, you know, he's got profiles on there too, depending on how many LED lights you have, which I've really been enjoying the LED profile for it. For me, I do like the Turn Racing dash. I prefer the Lovely dash, but the original Lovely dashboard more. But anyways, but with the Turn Racing dash, it does provide you all the information that you need in a race. So right here, I'm on the main screen, and it's giving me all the information for my session, for my time, how far the car is ahead of me, how far it is behind me, my positions, my sector lap times, gear speed, my lap times, you know, the traction control, ABS, brake bias, all that. All that's already supplied on the main screen itself. And again, this right now, like the size for me, it looks perfect on my rig. I got it mounted, you know, with my monitors. My monitors are 32 inches. You can't see the full thing, but the size and the distance from my eyes, you can see everything really clearly. So that being with it being a 5-inch, because some people, you know, say it's too small. For me, I think it's the perfect size for a dash. I see people running, you know, for example, the SimGrid 10-inch Porsche, you know, dash. I think it's a little too big, or a little too big for what I want in my rig. Again, that's just another personal preference for you guys to decide between yourselves. But anyways, that's enough on the dash itself. Now we're going to get into the game and see how this works in the game. All right, so let's go through the dash that we have. So up top, we can see what type of session we're in, the time, the gap to the people in front of us, behind us, our lap times. We got our sector times, our gear shift indicator with our rev limiter and our speed. Then we're going to see our lap time, our optimal lap time, and then the optimal lap time of other people. Then at the bottom, we're going to see our TC, ABS, brake bias, and how many liters of fuel that we have in the car. And now as we're driving, if you look at the bottom, you see our headlight, our windshield wipers. You're going to see the track conditions out there, from the temperature, the humidity. Everything is going to be put there on the very bottom of the track situation that's going on right now. So as you can see, like right now, like as I'm speeding up and slowing down, you can see that gap up on top of the dash, how it's changing to the position of the cars that are ahead of me. So now, all right, so now we're actually starting a race. So you can see the red light on the right is flashing. It's letting me know that there are cars on my right side. And the same thing is going to happen if you have a car on your left side. It's a really good indicator, at least for me, because I'm a more visual person. I want to see that, or see something, that there is a car next to me. Like sometimes when I hear something, it's not really going to do much for me, because I'm really paying more attention to the sound of the engine and the sound of the tires, and I'm not too really focused on the voices that are being, you know, pushed through my headset. So really, the lights right there give me a really nice visual if it's letting me know that there is a car next to me or not. As we're starting our race, here we go, and I'm going to quickly go dive down here, and you're going to see that right light is constantly flashing because of all the cars that are right next to me. And you can see up top how there are, you know, cars ahead of me, and you can see that gap constantly changing as I'm passing cars, or they get a little bit ahead of me. So you're seeing how where my car is situated in relative to other cars that are next to me. And you see the blue light flashing on the side. This will let me know that I'm kind of breaking traction. Again, this is all from the Daniel Newman LED profile lights. And you put a lot of time and effort into building this LED profile to really give you a lot of visual information, letting you know what's going on around you in the car and on the track. And you can see, like right in the middle, as I'm getting up there in the high rev limiters, if I'm not noticing all of my lights, my indicator box area is also flashing red to give me a little bit more, you know, hey, pay attention, man. Like, let me, you know, shift your gear, move into that higher gear because you're starting to over rev. And the same thing is going to happen when you get flags. You know, your side LEDs are going to start flashing. If it's a yellow flag, they're going to start flashing. You know, if you're getting about a faster driver, you know, if you're a lap behind, it's going to start flashing. Let blue letting you know, like, hey, you need to let this guy through. So everything that's built in this dash is really cool, is really good, especially with the LED profiles. For me, like, this dash does provide me a lot of information, which is good, but I think the overlay of it is not really that great when you compare it to something like the lovely Dash that's out there and available. And if you don't want to use this overlay, you can go ahead and use, again, whatever overlay you want that makes you feel more comfortable in, you know, understanding the information that the DDU is giving you. So anyways, that is kind of like an overview of what the Dash does, especially with its overlay. So now all we got left is go into our final thoughts. So now looking at what are my thoughts on this DDU. So the first thing I talked about was the build. So this DDU is made out of that carbon or that nylon carbon fiber injection molding, which is going to give you a nice strong casing, but it's going to make it light too. And you know, with everything's put together, looking at the seams, I didn't notice any warping or any gaps. It feels like a very solid DDU in your hands, and it didn't have that hollow feeling like you see in like some of these other kinds of non-metallic casings on it. And when I sat there and compared it to my Simpit SDU3, that's made out of machined aluminum, like the Simpit was a lot heavier than my Turn Racing. So for guys that care about weight, you know, the Turn Racing is quite a bit lighter than the Simpit SDU3 or anything that's made out of a metal kind of casing for your DDUs. Now, looking at the looks of it, again, because it's made out of injection molding, it's going to have that matte kind of rough texture to it, which might turn some people off to it that really enjoy the nice, sleek, shiny look to their equipment. But again, that's just more of a personal preference. For me, it didn't really matter in the slightest. Again, when I'm sitting there racing, I'm caring more about the information that's being displayed to me than the actual looks of the DDU itself. But again, I'm not saying the DDU looks ugly, but again, it just really preference, you know, your own personal preference of what you like. You know, going on to it with the angles, I really enjoy the angles of this DDU. It really gives it much more of a, makes it feel bigger than what it really is, and it offers you much more of a 3D kind of feel when you're sitting behind, you know, with having my wheel, having the DDU, you know, a couple inches behind it, and then with a gap, and then my monitor. It made me feel much more immersed in my sim rig as I was using it. Then going off into the LEDs were very bright. I had to turn them down a little bit. Again, it's just my own personal preference. So at least you can have, you know, really dim LED lights, or you can make them very bright. I'm pretty sure the brightness of the LEDs is going to satisfy anybody that's out there. But for me, I wasn't really too fond of the overlay of the Turn Racing, you know, DDU. Even though it's made by the guy behind Lovely Dashboards, I felt it kind of lifeless or colorless. I didn't really like it too much. It does provide you all the information you need when you're racing, but for me, I prefer something with a bit more color to it. So, you know, me using this, I'm probably just going to move it back to the Lovely Dashboard and use that while I'm using this DDU. Now going on to the performance, with the screen, because it's 60 Hertz refresh rate, you're not going to notice any frame skipping. Everything feels very smooth as you're moving things around. That's really going to depend on what version of SimHub you're running, because if you're using the free version of SimHub, you're not going to be able to access that full, you know, refresh rate, versus if you have the paid license to use the full refresh rate to it. And with that, right now it only works with SimHub, but the guys at Turn Racing are working on updates to make it work with other programs like the Z1 dashboard. And one of my cons, again, with this was the USB cable. I didn't really like them using just, you know, the regular long connector USB cable. I would prefer if it was something that was an elbow joint, because of I couldn't change really the distance between my monitor and how my SIM core mount comes into. So my USB cable is, you know, the cable part, not the plug, is a little bent, and I think over time that could affect, you know, with that pressure, it could mess something up with my Turn Racing DDU. So I wish they supplied more of an elbow jointed USB cable to really, you know, for people that like to have their dash right up to their monitors. But then, like, last part, which I think is the most important part, which most people care about, is the value. So how much does the DDU cost? Well, if you're in the United States, it's going to cost you $227. If you're in Europe, it's going to be €210. And if you're in the United Kingdom, it's going to cost you 182 British pounds, and that is not including the shipping. So again, I'm going to compare it to my Simpit SDU3, which I believe I paid around €400 for it with the shipping and everything. I paid for the pre-release, you know, of this, which was about $175, but now this gone up to, again, $227. So when I sit there and compare the two, you know, the Turn Racing is a much cheaper option than, for example, like the Simitech 3 or Simitech SDU 3 DDU that's out there. So in the end, do I think this DDU, is it great? Is it good? I think it's a really, really good DDU. It offers a lot of the information that racers and sim racers need, you know, while they're racing. Again, I think with the style of the overlay with the USB cable, that kind of drops it a little bit in my head. But again, for the price, you know, it's a very, very solid buy if you're out there looking for a DDU for your rig. Or, you know, if you could spend more on other DDUs, but again, for, you know, $227, you know, and what, you know, the value of it is in other countries, you know, that price is really, really good for the performance of this DDU. But anyways, that's it, guys. You know, let me know in the comments below, what did you think of this video? What kind of DDU are you using on your rig? And again, if you like this video, please like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you know when we have more videos coming out. We're releasing videos on a weekly basis, and we're starting to stream more, so we're trying to provide you guys more entertainment as much as we can. But anyways, that's it for me, and I hope you guys have fun racing. Later.